What's up, everyone? Dan here, Crypto Capital Venture, December 16th, 2018. What a weekend for Litecoin. Good job, Litecoin. Making moves. I'm sure you're well aware of the flattening. We're going to talk about that briefly. We're going to look at the chart. Litecoin not only with the flattening this weekend, overtaking Bitcoin Cash, but also making some moves in terms of price. Going to talk about that, look at the charts. Let's start with, real quick, checking out CoinMarketCap. You see it. I really don't need to spend too much time on it. You're probably aware of it. Litecoin, number 7. Beyond just Bitcoin Cash, what I wanted to talk about was also, you can see Litecoin creeping up very closely to EOS and Stellar up here. Very, very close behind the two in terms of market cap. So I want to start tracking that move for Litecoin. But the flattening, here it is. You can see what's crazy is I was doing a live stream the other day and it was like just about to happen. I was on the live stream refreshing the page and it was at like 98%. An hour or two later, I ended the live stream and the flattening happened. It happened and it's continuing to happen, right? 108% right now. Litecoin to Bitcoin Cash. So really cool to see. So just to talk about the technicals of where Litecoin is in terms of price, what I want to do is I want to start with this tweet that I tweeted a little bit ago, a couple hours ago, not even. I said Litecoin is the only cryptocurrency that moves in flow with Bitcoin, both in terms of community and technologically. Bitcoin and Litecoin support each other. If you're long on Bitcoin, it's wise to be long on Litecoin. So there are so many, fundamental things, right, that connect the two. The main differences, really, they're very similar, Bitcoin and Litecoin, right? The main differences are the hash algorithms of Litecoin versus Bitcoin, the speed, and transaction costs. Those are really the three biggest differences. But beyond those differences, and some argue Litecoin's better because of its speed and transaction costs. I wouldn't argue that Litecoin is better than Bitcoin. But beyond those differences, we have these other things that add incredible value to Litecoin in terms of its growth alongside Bitcoin, which is Litecoin acting as this test net for Bitcoin. You might have heard that before. That offers huge value for Litecoin. It's such a support structure for testing new things in terms of Bitcoin, and Litecoin gathers that attraction, right? The spotlight is on Litecoin for that very reason. And also there's just huge value in acting as a test net for Bitcoin. And then the other thing that is becoming more important as we develop in this space is Litecoin acting as an on-ramp for the Lightning Network, right? So that's another piece of value. You always see, and actually I can scroll down. Yeah, so here's one right here. You always see people arguing that Litecoin, doesn't have any value. And they're so wrong. This person said, what would be the real use of Litecoin in 1 to 2 years when Lightning Network will be mainstream? Also, why should I trust my money? I'm not even going to read the rest of that comment, but you get it. I think somebody else commented, maybe on a different post of mine, basically asking, give me one reason why Litecoin has value. Well, I just gave you like 4 or 5 reasons really quickly, and we could dig deeper into that, but we're not going to. Litecoin has value. Beyond Bitcoin, it is the reason why it's my number 2 cryptocurrency, and it has been. And that's why we've covered it so much on this channel. So let's talk now about what Litecoin's doing, because Litecoin really is just making moves. Market as a whole seems to be up a little bit, but Litecoin right now up around over 10%, and you can see it on the chart. So on the daily chart, we have some things happening. You can see Litecoin really finding some key support down here at the 22 area. But we can probably get better insight if we kind of just zoom out on the daily a little bit, and then also zoom back in on the 4 hour to see what's actually happening. So for better foundation to what we'll look at on the 4 hour, we can go back to August when we had like this very small little falling wedge forming that we were tracking. And this was before Bitcoin obviously broke down through 6,000. But we had this target, right? The height of this channel right here that we actually hit. So we broke out of the bottom of this. We wanted to break to the top. We didn't. We broke to the bottom. We then hit our target of support right there. We had a little mini bounce. And then in doing so, we started forming another falling wedge that we were tracking, right? And you can see it here on the daily. Interestingly enough, you can see we broke to the top of that wedge, end of November, through the top of that wedge, end of November. We revisited the trend line, actually, saw some support, and that could have been our first indication of, Litecoin seeing some support down here in the $23 area, right? So to get a better idea of what that looks like, a more clear idea of what that looks like, we can see the same exact thing, the same exact move on the 4-hour chart, right? So here's that first wedge we were talking about. Here's that break, the height of that wedge, the breakout area. You can see we came down, we broke through, we started forming this new wedge that we just saw, right? Broke through the upside, revisited the upper trend line of that wedge, saw some support in that area, and we're talking, 9 or 10 days ago, this was happening. And since then, Litecoin has made a little bit of a move. So the question now is what's going to happen with Litecoin? So I want to just give you my honest, hopefully fair approach to what I think. So, and what I want to do for that is I want to do two things. Number one, I want to visit Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin, I'm going to do another separate video on this, but just for a quick glance, this is what I'm tracking for Bitcoin. So depending on what happens with Bitcoin in this current formation that is being formed, I feel like that is what we should be watching for that next move for Litecoin. Litecoin obviously does this every once in a while where it pulls away from Bitcoin a little bit, but it's not like it never has truly completely separated itself, right? The two always come back into synergy in terms of how they're moving. So while this is nice and I love when this happens, and I think it will begin happening more and more often, I don't think this is a permanent thing where Litecoin is just separate from Bitcoin, right? Litecoin's up almost 11%, Bitcoin's like 1.5%, but that's short term. The two will level out, in my opinion. And then from there, we're back to watching Bitcoin as a foundation for moves. So right now, this is what I'm looking at this formation in Bitcoin, and I really want to see what Bitcoin does, really, essentially at these levels, $3,100 to $3,200. We talked about this the other day in Bitcoin technical analysis. That's the first thing. The second thing is I'm looking at the LTC BTC pair. It really helps paint a story in terms of Litecoin and what Litecoin has been doing, right, for a while now. And you can just see this continued downtrend in Litecoin. And real quick, I do want to take a quick glance on the daily on the same chart. So here's the daily. So I just want to throw a word of caution, but also a really solid area to watch right now for Litecoin. Now that we finally made it back up to the daily, right? This is the daily EMA. This is the 50 EMA on the daily chart. We made it back up. Now, what we want to see is something happen that's different than what has happened basically every time we've been at this area since, last spring, which is rejection. You can see all here since March, rejection. Will that trend change? That's the question. That's the biggest question right now in terms of Litecoin and what next, because it really helps paint a picture of potentially what might happen next, right? And so we take historical data to really evaluate the risk of what might happen next. So you see this clear rejection in this downward trend that Litecoin has been making, right? And you can see it right there. This is just a series of lower highs. Boom, lower high, new lower high. So now I do want to throw out there, this is a good example of the least, in my opinion, the least risky way to accumulate Bitcoin or Litecoin, right? And it's all about leveraging the two to add to your positions. So what I want to give you an example. This is not something that I do often on this channel, but I want to let some of you know, and don't hate me for it. I'm pretty comfortable with the amount of Litecoin that I have, right? So at this point, I find it a nice, and I just did this a little bit ago, a nice area to leverage this Litecoin gain of almost 11% and accumulate some Bitcoin. So I've traded some Litecoin for Bitcoin. I find that this is a good opportunity to do something like that. This is not financial advice. I'm not advising you to do that. I just want to let you know what I have done in terms of where it is. Because from historical evidence, there's a strong possibility that Litecoin is going to see heavy resistance here, and we will be going back down, if not to test this bottom, possibly to continue this downward wedge, especially if this bear market continues, right? This downward wedge that you see on the screen. Just trying to paint it real quick for you. Continue down, either test this previous bottom or create a new low for BTC or LTC BTC pair. So those are my thoughts. Now, I say this is the least risky type of play because of this. The worst that can happen with doing something like this, taking some of my Litecoin, trading for Bitcoin at this point is this. Litecoin actually continues to see gains on Bitcoin, right? Like, that's the worst possible thing that can happen. However, if Litecoin continues to see gains on Bitcoin, it will most likely be in an environment where Bitcoin, what I just purchased, right, for Litecoin, starts to see similar gains. So it is probably the best possible play in terms of risk. And I've talked about that a lot on this channel. And actually, probably not a lot. I mentioned it sometimes on this channel, and this was just a really good example to bring it up to you, what I just did. So that's kind of what I'm tracking right now on Bitcoin and Litecoin. Let me know your thoughts. Otherwise, what a good week. What a good week for Litecoin. Really cool to see. Very fun to actually cover Litecoin. I know I haven't been covering it as much lately, but this is it. Litecoin is the only cryptocurrency that moves in flow with Bitcoin, both in terms of community and technologically. BTC and LTC support each other. If you're long on Bitcoin, it's wise to be long on Litecoin. Leverage the two. The two go hand in hand beautifully. And those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. Are you enjoying the weekend if you're a Litecoin holder? Let me know. I hope you're doing well. What do you think is going to happen next? I also want to know what you think there. Otherwise, you know the drill. I'll see you all in the next video. Have an awesome day, and God bless.